So why in a time of climate crisis are trees important? Well, to put it succinctly, trees, I believe, will help save us from ourselves.
I think for me, the big motivation behind planting trees, and particularly where you're planting them in an agroforestry system or a forest garden system, is just that it can deliver like at least 5 good things.
We are in a climate crisis, and we are also in a nature and biodiversity crisis. And this is not something that we can kind of think about for too much longer. We really are at 2 minutes to midnight in terms of our ability to affect the change that's needed to prevent both of those things coming to fruition.
If we want to survive on this planet, we have to lower the temperature. We have to create landscapes that are resilient against flood and drought, and trees can help us greatly with this.
We have to plant more trees. We are part of a living planet. It is our home. It is my home, your home.
I think one of the main shocks that we're experiencing globally at the moment is the reminder that when things become volatile beyond our shores, it makes life very difficult for us here.
Welcome back to Wood for the Trees. Over the last 2 years during making this series, we've discovered that tree planting is a very popular subject. Millions, billions and even trillions of trees have been promised by governments around the world, and all because tree planting is seen as a nature-based solution to climate change. In the last film, we did some basic mathematics and demonstrated that planting trees in the UK for carbon sequestration alone will only have a minimal impact on our targets of net zero. The only way to solve that problem is to cut our emissions. Now, we normally bring you one passionate and knowledgeable expert to answer our questions, but for this film, we've got no less than 8 who are each going to give us their view on why we desperately need more trees in our landscape.
I'm Gabriel Hemery. I'm Chief Executive and co-founder of the Sylva Foundation. So why in a time of climate crisis are trees important? Well, to put it succinctly, trees, I believe, will help save us from ourselves. So they're here to regulate us from the worst effects of climate change, whether it be extreme heat like we've had this summer to flooding in the winters. But they've also done much more than that. So trees are essential to life. But they also produce timber, they create habitat for wildlife and raise our spirits and improve our landscape. And not forgetting, of course, that they're going to help us replace oil-based plastics and concrete and steel in our building, in our construction, in the materials and tools we need to help society become sustainable.
My name is Jim Blackburn and I'm the Managing Director of the Timber Frame Company. We specialise in heavy structural timber framing using green oak, Douglas fir and larch, and as far as we can we source that from the UK. I think one of the main shocks that we're experiencing globally at the moment is the reminder that when things become volatile beyond our shores, it makes life very difficult for us here, both economically and materially. Currently we are facing huge costs of just transport. So just growing our own secure set of materials for the next 40 to 80 years is really a bit of a no-brainer, I think. If we're planting specifically for building, there is constant development of timber engineered materials, engineered panels and so on that I think have the great opportunity of replacing large amounts of use of concrete. It's simple to work with, it's simple to build with, and has the added benefit that apart from tying up all the carbon within its structure, it can also be recycled.
About myself, well, I have many discoveries. I made stroma-free hemoglobin, which is used in tissue transplanting all over the world. I also am a classical botanist. So my arena is both botanical and medical. The most universal, most important reaction in the whole global community on the planet is the photosynthetic reaction. It is a reaction that takes carbon dioxide, smacks it in half to carbon and oxygen, and that's the oxygen you're breathing right now, and I'm breathing, and all the listeners are breathing right now. The higher the ratio of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, the lower the oxygen is in the atmosphere. About 60% comes from trees, and that's variable because the forests are coming down. And the other 30-ish odd percent comes from the oceans, again from plants. So we need to plant trees to maintain our oxygen levels.
Hi, I'm Jon Deakin and I'm the Head of Trees and Woodlands for the National Trust. During COVID in particular, it was really clear that actually people's demand for nature and green space and trees and woodlands had never been more acute, and the usage of our properties for people to access those increased several fold at many locations right the way across the UK. In hotter climates, we've known this summer, we can see that the shade of a tree brings huge benefits in terms of people's ability to live comfortably in a warming climate in more urban areas. So we're really working on concepts like tree equity, which is a way of measuring how people's access to trees and woodlands differs across different geographic locations. And it's proven, sadly, that people who have poor access to trees and therefore less tree equity often suffer, and we want to try and address that.
My name is Derek Gow. Over the course of the last 25 years, I've been involved in breeding a range of different British wildlife species that are threatened, creatures like water voles and beavers, to reintroduce them back into landscapes from which they have gone. So trees produce living space for all sorts of other creatures. Not only do they in their stems and their trunks as they bole and open and branches snap off, not only do they give access to woodpeckers, which then go on to make cosy homes for bats and a whole host of other bird species, but their pollens, their leaves also provide a great abundance of food for all sorts of other creatures.
The wonderful people in the British Isles have a moral situation where they have to plant their native trees to feed the birds, and birds in migration I'm talking about, the butterflies in migration, and all of the insects and all of the small creatures on the island itself. So what you have to think about is maintaining your forests in the temperate rainforest system that you have.
I'm Jon Freeman and I work for Devon Wildlife Trust on their Saving Devon's Treescapes project. Here in Devon we've got 1.9 million ash trees outside of woodland. There are 125 million ash trees in the UK. Like this tree that's been felled here behind me, many of these trees are being stricken with ash dieback disease, which may kill between 80 and 95% of that ash population, which means a huge number of trees lost out of the landscape. That of course has a huge impact on the visual landscape, as those trees create gaps in what we see, but also it has a huge impact on wildlife, because ash trees are incredibly important for wildlife. There are many species which are only found on ash trees.
We've got tree poverty. There's only 47 trees per person for all UK citizens, compared to many thousands per person in the rest of Europe. The government targets to plant 30,000 hectares per year for many years to try and move us from 14 to 17%. Even then, we'll still be one of the least wooded countries in Europe.
I'm Doug King-Smith. I'm here at the Hillyfield in Devon. And the reason I think we need more trees planted now is because our landscape is missing them. It's not just planting trees that we're talking about, it's creating landscapes with multiple layers of benefit. So that's from the flora, the fauna, the mycelial networks, but also the products we can make. Firewood is an element of that, and an important one to get heat from our trees. It's a very simple process. It's the first step of the managing woodlands for an economic purpose. But that's just like one tiny element of what the woodland is in the whole. A friend sent me footage from a hot air balloon over this land. All around us is grassland. It's Dartmoor National Park, it's open and pretty barren. And the woodland valley here is rich and green and multi-layered.
I think it was Oliver Rackham that said you could never burn a deciduous woodland because it's just too wet. And while he may have been right, but we may be moving into a time where perhaps he wasn't as right as he thought he was. But given that the deciduous woodlands don't burn well, then they can be very effective brakes against fire. The roots going down into the soil, as I say, allow water to pass through the leaf litter to recharge aquifers, to recharge, so that our springs flow again, and we when it rains, all the water doesn't just hit this flattened agricultural plan, beaten down by tractors, beaten down by livestock, and run straight down into the nearest village. We've had now 70 years of chemical agriculture whereby the companies that sell us the fertilisers tell us it's the only way to farm. And now we know that that's come at a terrible price, and that price is depleted soils. You have the farmers' own organisations telling you we've got however many years of harvest left, and it's not many. So actually restoring goodness to the soil through agroforestry, through interplanting trees through the farmland so that the trees restore their leaf litter back to the soil in an effort to try and rebuild it. We need trees to be there once again as part of this landscape in a way we never needed and appreciated them before.
I'm Harriet, I'm the regenerative farming lead for Riverford Organic Farmers. So this is a field on Riverford's Wash Farm, and this is what we would call a Sylva pasture system. So that's trees in amongst grass for animals to eat, in this case the Riverford dairy herd. Now these are a particular type of trees, these are walnut trees, so they're delivering multiple functions. So obviously trees locking up carbon, that's great. Farms have a huge potential to sequester more carbon than they emit, which is universally beneficial. But we've specifically picked walnuts because they also provide us with a food crop. And the other benefits of walnuts in this particular system, the Sylva pasture system, is the benefits they're going to bring to the livestock in a time of climate crisis. So these walnuts are going to provide shelter, which is going to be really helpful both when it's kind of wet and cold and miserable, but also when it's hot and droughty. I mean, heat stress can really negatively impact the milk yields of a dairy herd. So giving them the shelter should really benefit the dairy part of the business as well. There's obviously going to be a biodiversity benefit for having more trees in field. And then lastly, the other environmental benefit is that we are going to see a lot of increasing issues around water in this country when it comes to climate change. So the lack of water availability when it's really dry, but also flooding. And having trees in the field, slowing the flow of water as it moves across the landscape, can really help manage flooding for the benefit of the wider landscape.
So planting trees isn't just about a crop of a useful product. It's restoring the soil, it's bringing in an environment that's beneficial to all the ecology, the insects, the birds, all the life that's in it, the mushrooms, the networks of life together. And part of that is us. So there is an economic relationship, there is a working woodland to be had. Whatever angle we're looking, there are so many layered benefits to having a woodland in the landscape. And that's why I think we need trees. It's beautiful, shaded, moisture-rich, nourishing land. It's the woodland culture we want to see, and that starts with planting a tree.
We've heard from our experts that there are so many good reasons to plant trees in this country. And planting more trees in the right place for the right reasons can help us, humans, our livestock, and other creatures mitigate the effects of drought and extreme heat and even flooding. What we're talking about are resilient and healthy and productive landscapes that are enhanced by and protected by more trees. There is no question that we need more trees. Nature needs more trees, the soil needs more trees, our homes need more trees, the whole landscape needs more trees. So all we need to do is start planting them and growing them. The next logical question, if there are genuinely so many good reasons for doing it, well then what are the blockers? Well, that is the question for our next film. So please subscribe and we'll see you next time.